Three, two, one. Hello, and welcome to It's the Pictures. We're on episode number 217. My name is Evan Crean. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Max Colville. Hey, Max.
How you doing, everyone? How you doing, Evan?
I'm good. How about you? What's new with you?
Pretty good. Still recovering from the big trip that I talked about last time. I ended up seeing. I think I saw movies after. Yeah, I saw movies after we talked. Like I saw Project Hail Mary and Hopper. So I have started watching movies again. After a long time of being away from movies or television with the trip and Olympics and basketball and what have you. Now I feel like I kind of watch some movies again and get back into it. We're coming up to April,
Mm-hmm.
and one of my favorite times of year is our summer box office games coming up next month. So that would be a lot of fun. What have you been up to lately?
Not a whole ton. Working a little bit here and there, watching some movies, watching some TV. As always, I'm on the Apple TV train. Blew through all of Imperfect Women, that show with Elizabeth Moss and Kate Mara and Kerry Washington, and that was all right. But I'm really turned on to another show right now. I don't even know if I'm allowed to be talking about it, but it's a TV show that they dropped a couple episodes in the preview, and I got really hooked after like 3 episodes, and then there's not any more to watch right now.
No.
So I'm kind of like, no, I want more. But yeah.
Yeah, one of them that's on there that I still haven't gotten to yet, and I'm still interested. Is like Margot's got money problems. I know that I might have mentioned it here on the show that I was interested in checking that one out. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you
me
know,
too.
I just remembered that like I have also been like watching some anime again. I haven't done that. There's a new season of anime starting next week. So I watched the first 2 episodes of this like one of the buzziest of the season, which Hat Atelier, and I had read the manga of that, and so I was really excited for it, and like it holds up.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. And then there's this older like shojo show that's called like the Apothecary Diaries, and that one's pretty interesting too. It's like this young woman who's like in the inner courts, and she gets in because she is like the poison tester, and I think that it translates well because I guess like I don't know if you're familiar with this, Evan, but like I watched a lot of anime over the last 20 years, and a lot of it is still like really geared towards like 15-year-olds. So I like a lot of the ones that have a little bit more going on underneath them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Only really occasionally dabbled in anime, and admittedly, I don't think I've watched a whole lot of new anime since I was 15. But that's cool. That's good stuff. Getting some different watching in. Should we jump into our news?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you mentioned that you saw Project Hail Mary. Apparently, there's some speculation about a sequel. What have you heard about that?
Yeah, so apparently this is like one of the biggest movies in like Amazon MGM history. I mean that collaboration is young, but even I
Mm-hmm.
think as far as like MGM's history, Project Hail Mary has been a monstrous success. I can't imagine how it hasn't. It's won first at the box office 2 weekends in a row, and it's a science fiction film that maybe typically these don't have a lot of expectation, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you have your Star Wars, and you have I don't know, maybe Dune is a success.
Yeah.
There's not many successful science fiction movies out there.
Right. Yeah, you have your Star Treks, your Star Wars, your Dunes.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting when something can come along that's not part of one of those big franchises and make a splash. I forget. You read the book Project Hail Mary, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And you're going to talk about it in the what we've been watching segment?
I can talk about it a little bit more then. I did do a review on it on the newsletter,
Cool.
and went as far as to say like you know I feel like the author Andy Weir kind of did a retreat because like it felt like a lot like The Martian in ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so like maybe that's why I didn't fall in love with it as much as other people are, but it's not like a knock on the material, it's just my personal feelings on it.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see it because I did like The Martian quite a bit. I liked the book. I haven't read Project Hail Mary, but from the trailers, the movie, it looked really good. So I guess I'll get to it at some point. But yeah, not surprised if it's doing well that there's talk of a sequel. I mean, having read the book and having seen the movie, do you feel like there's an opportunity story wise there for there to be a sequel?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you have everybody involved, I mean, I don't see why you couldn't expand it out. But most of these things that weren't intended to be sequels and then get stretched out kind of get stretched too thin, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think like even looking at TV, like how they're like planning a new season of Shogun, and it wouldn't surprise me just to hear one day that that show gets scrapped or like they cancel season two because like
Mm-hmm.
the only reason why they wanted to announce a season two was to make it so that it was seemed like a series to win Emmys and not
Mm-hmm.
just a mini series.
Yeah. I think of Bad Sisters, which was only supposed to be one season and ended up getting a second season. I don't think it was nearly as strong because, yeah, to your point, it wasn't. I don't. It wasn't really intended initially to be another season. It was supposed to be kind of one and done thing.
But it takes a lot to develop original ideas, and they
Mm-hmm.
say that although this is by the same author as The Martian, that's I guess as close as you can get to a non IP film. They're like, yes, it's a new IP. Let's monetize this and make more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shall we jump to our next item on the news? It's looks like good old Marty Scorsese is working on a new movie with Leo. He's teaming up with Leonardo DiCaprio again, but this time Jennifer Lawrence is in the mix, and they're working on a film called What Happens at Night, which is being described as a haunted marriage drama. Of course, it's gonna be some psychological elements. It sounds like it's about a couple that goes to like a small town to adopt a child, and you've seen like a first look photo of Leonardo DiCaprio sporting a mustache, the same mustache he was wearing at the Oscars,
Right.
and kind of holding Jennifer Lawrence by the arm and walking through like a snowy landscape. Apparently, it also has Mads Mikkelsen, Patricia Clarkson, and Jared Harris involved, which is pretty cool. Love all those people. But yeah, I mean, what do you think, Max? Leo teaming up with Scorsese again. We know that's a fruitful collaboration. And Jennifer Lawrence, first time, but I imagine she'll probably do pretty good.
Yeah, it was funny when I was doing some writing recently on Killers of the Flower Moon finally coming out on Criterion. It just came out last Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like saying to myself, I don't know why I continuously get super excited about Martin Scorsese movies because like I haven't really loved one in a long time. And not to say like I'm not happy that he's continuing to make movies and like I consider him a master and like there's a lot of his movies that I do really think are quite good. I'm also like, yeah, that was a good movie and like I don't know if I necessarily need to like revisit anytime. Like I own The Irishman, but I don't know if I'll ever watch that again.
Yeah,
Or
I don't think
like
I would watch that again.
I like Wolf of Wall Street's probably the closest because like I thought that was entertaining, but
Mm-hmm. Yep.
like Silence, I think that's really heavy. I don't think I'd watch that again.
No, I don't think I would either, even though I thought it was actually quite good.
And then like Hugo is like the reason to see it was for like the 3D effects, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
other than that, it wasn't that great. So yeah, I mean like I'm excited that he's making another film. Yes. Do I realize that he probably doesn't have that many films left in the bank? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll still be excited. Like it's one of the best directors in the world, working with one of the best actors in the world. So we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely be curious like I am with any of his movies, although it's funny because this article is referencing Shutter Island as one of his team ups with DiCaprio, and I hate that. Actively hate it. It's not even
Yeah, I
that
don't
like
like.
I didn't think it was that
Yeah,
good.
I don't like that movie either. It's okay.
Yes. So I'm hoping it's not like that. Hoping we're not in for another Shutter Island because unsubscribe if that's the case. But yeah, and then also in the news, IFF Boston, Independent Film Festival Boston, has released their lineup for their upcoming festival, and there were just some titles that we wanted to mention that are going to be part of the festival. Opening night is going to be Boots Riley's new film, I Love Boosters, which is kind of a funny name for a movie, and it's got a pretty loaded cast. I don't know a ton about this one, Max. Do you?
No, and actually, I think as we're recording today on the 30th, I think there was like a new poster or maybe even a new trailer for it, which I didn't watch.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know. The thing that really stood out to me from like the first visuals and stuff is just like the usage of color. And I think like we probably talked about I Love Boosters when it was announced for South by Southwest a few episodes
Yeah.
ago, and just
Mm-hmm.
like our history with Boots Riley. So like I'm not like super excited to see this, but I don't know. Yeah, it's the opening night. It's coming to Boston after opening South by Southwest, and it has really good reviews from the critics who've already seen it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Some of the other titles we don't call out. The closing night film is Olivia Wilde's film, The Invite. Also, don't know a ton about this
Yeah,
one.
that's her first film after the controversial craziness of Don't Worry, Darling. Maybe this will be a lower profile movie while she finds her feet again.
Yeah. This is a dramedy, it looks like, about a marriage that's on thin ice. It says when they invite their enigmatic upstairs neighbors for a dinner party, the night spirals into unexpected places. And apparently, this is co-written by Will McCormick and Rashida Jones. We got Edward Norton, Seth Rogen, Olivia Wilde's going to be in it too herself, Penelope Cruz. Definitely an interesting cast of characters for sure. I was just thinking back to that episode of The Studio with Olivia Wilde and the missing
Mm.
film reel, and that was actually quite funny. But yeah, let's see what else from IFF Boston. The narrative centerpiece is a film called Tuner, which Max, you reminded me was actually a movie that I was interested in seeing. It's about a guy who is a piano tuner who realizes he can use those skills for cracking safes. And I think he works with Dustin Hoffman as kind of like his mentor in the movie, who like teaches him how to crack safes and does crime with him. So that sounded pretty fun. That's
Yeah,
the
this
narrative centerpiece.
Tuner played at Toronto, and I remember a lot of people. You normally hear these like films bubbling up in the background, and like that was one that I was like, oh yeah, okay, had pretty good notices.
Mm-hmm. And then the documentary centerpiece is a film called Remake. Do you know much about this one, Max?
Yeah, I wasn't too familiar with. No, I wasn't too familiar about that one, but I don't know. I think like in the past, the documentary centerpiece at IFF Boston has been pretty solid. I remember like some years ago, I think I
Mm-hmm.
saw this documentary called Project Nim there, and I remember liking that quite a bit.
Yeah, it looks like the description here says Ross McElwee explores time and memory through footage of his son Adrian, weaving their shared filmmaking past with an unfinished Hollywood remake of Sherman's March, creating a meditation on loss and documentation. Don't know if that's quite for me, but it sounds like it will be moving.
Well, it sounds light and bubbly, right?
Yeah, of course, as documentaries often are. But
Hmm.
yeah, some other films that we wanted to call out: Power Ballad, which is a John Carney movie. I Want Your Sex, Greg Araki. School for Defectors, which is that a documentary, Max? It looks like
Yeah, it's a
it's.
documentary of like North Korean kids who come over and learn in South Korean schools.
Oh, okay, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's a very different documentary. His last Jeremy Workman's last documentary was Secret Mall Apartment, which was
Hmm.
bubbling for a long time on the surface, but then then it came on Netflix and a lot of people found it there and was like, "Oh, this is really fascinating." So I think his profile went up quite a bit.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like an interesting documentary. And yeah, I remember you talking about Secret Mall Apartment. So yeah, a good lineup of films as always. IFF Boston always has excellent films in their lineup. They have some great filmmaker Q&As, discussions, parties. It's an amazing festival. This year it's going to run from April 22nd. Yeah, it's love the folks that run it, and it's usually a good preview of a lot of movies that'll end up being in the wars conversation later in the year before
Yeah,
they,
no,
do their
not only
fall
that,
focus.
but like I see the programmers of this festival when at TIFF, and so they work on the IFF Boston Fall Focus, which is a pretty big program now in the fall.
Mhm.
But also, haven't seen those films. They're working at the ones from Toronto. They're at Sundance. They're at South by Southwest. So they're going to these places and thinking about the audience back here in Boston, finding the films that they think will connect most with the audience. So
Mhm.
know that you'll find at least something interesting if you are able to take in the IFF Boston Film Festival, which takes place at the mostly the independent theaters in Boston. You have the Somerville, the Coolidge, and the Brattle.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, it's a great time. It's been a few years since I've been able to cover it, but Highly recommend checking it out, folks. Well, I think that makes a good point to transition to our main topic for this week's or for this episode. We're going to be talking about movies that are celebrating their 40th anniversary this year. So these are films that came out in 1986 for anyone who's counting. And yeah, I think originally we kind of came to this because I was telling Max that I was rewatching Platoon and we were thinking about movies from the era, and we're both having a big upcoming birthday this year. Both turning 40 this year. So we're like, all right, what better time to talk about movies from from 40 years ago than right now. And yeah, I think we'll probably talk about a smattering of films that are celebrating their 40th anniversary, but before we kind of dive into any specific movies, Max, did you have any other thoughts you wanted to add?
Yeah, so I guess to headline the 80s up a little bit, we in and found that the top 10 box office movies of the year. And when you watch some of these movies, you definitely feel like you're in a time period. It's amazing that like the 80s feels like such a time capsule, but like with some of the clothing or just the way things looked is very obvious in a lot of these movies.
Yeah, that's true. Probably more so in some of the movies on the list, like Crocodile Dundee. I'd imagine there's some pretty 80s
Yes.
styles in there, or Back to School. But yeah, let's just quickly share that top 10 list. These films were the top 10 films at the box office in 1986. Number 1, unsurprisingly, is Top Gun. Number 2, Crocodile Dundee, we just mentioned. Number 3, Platoon. Number 4, Karate Kid Part 2. Got some sequels in here. Number 5, Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home.
Also known as the whale one.
Also known as the whale one. I was just going to say that. Thank you. Number 6, Back to School. That's a film with Rodney Dangerfield, as I explained to Max earlier. He follows his son to college. Aliens, of course, the great film by James Cameron. The Golden Child, which is an Eddie Murphy film. Ruthless People. And number 10, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So, yeah, you want to just dive in? I don't know if you have a particular place you want to start, Max, of like a particular movie, or I'm game.
Well, since I decided to sit through Crocodile Dundee for this episode, I have to talk about it. It's like a requirement because otherwise,
Yeah.
like, why did I do that? So,
Why'd you do that to yourself?
right, yeah, Crocodile Dundee. I guess was he like a character before this movie, or was like a TV show? Like, I tried to like imagine like how this was like financed, or they thought it was a good idea to make this movie.
As far as I know, this character like originated with the movie. Yeah, Paul Hogan, plays Crocodile Dundee. He made like an entire career out of playing this character, both like in the movies and kind of like I remember during the '90s they had those Subaru Outback commercials with where he was like, I don't know if he was like the spokesperson or the narrator, but yeah, he played this character or a kind of version of himself as the character like forever, and he's like an iconic character in Australia too. Like people know him, and he's revered for playing Crocodile Dundee.
So the movie has like a typical fish out of water premise.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not unlike Superman in a way, where you have the reporter who gets this like dream story and decides that she's gonna go to Australia to find this weird eccentric gentleman who supposedly survived a crocodile bite and is now still living among the people, and he's pretty famous, and he goes by the nickname Crocodile Dundee. And she's like,
Mm-hmm.
this is the story of a lifetime. I mean, later in the movie, we learn that she's a nepo baby and that her father owns a newspaper, and that's why she's able to just go to Australia and cover this like really obscure story. Because
That's
I'm like,
hilarious.
why would this like make big news to find a guy who got bit by a crocodile?
Mm-hmm.
But she goes down there. She's played by Linda Kozłowski, and I don't know, when she gets there, she doesn't know what to expect. She's like, this guy's really weird, and But some part of her is like smitten by him because like he's this
Yeah.
rough and tough guy, and she always feels safe around him.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene where like he saves her life from a crocodile and he like stabs it in the head. That's pretty funny. But then she's like, this isn't enough to just do this story. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
what we really need to do is have you come to New York City.
Right. We need Crocodile Dundee and the Big Apple and see what that's all about.
And whether or not, like, I looked up reviews of this movie afterwards, Evan, and like, there's people who are on two very different sides of this movie where they're like, the
Mm-hmm.
movie doesn't begin until he gets to New York, and there's
Yeah.
other people who are like, the first part with in Australia is kind of fast or like at least entertaining,
Mm-hmm.
and in New York it goes off the rails. So depending on which side of the fence you fall on, um, the movie's very dated. 1986. There's a lot of like gay and transgender panic. There's like this really like horrendous scene where like Crocodile Dundee checks to see like what sex the person they're talking to is, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe
God.
that they did this in this movie. But I don't know. And then like a lot of the gags come from like him not knowing what prostitutes are, or like let's use the word like women for hire, I guess. And he, he's like bewildered by them, and he like punches their pimp and gets into big trouble. I guess like the movie has like zero conflict, Evan, until like the
Yeah, I
last.
was I was trying to remember even what happens in the movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, and it was on TV a ton. But I'm like, what's our climactic thing that we're doing here in this movie?
So in the last 10 minutes, our female lead gets proposed to by like another guy who works at the newspaper, and it's like, oh, it seems like her father wanted this, and like she's like, yeah, this is the right move because like he's at the paper and he'll be the
Mm-hmm.
safe choice.
Yeah.
And then she learns that like Crocodile Dundee has left and he's got to go on a walkabout. And earlier in the movie, he tells her like, "Oh, the last time I went on a walkabout, I was gone for 18 months, and like she didn't wait for me when I got back." And he's like, "Oh no, I'll never find him again." And so she chases him down in like a subway and shouts like across to all these people like, "Tell him I'm not gonna marry this other guy and that I love him." And all this, he like crowd surfs over to her, and then the movie ends. And I don't know. I have no idea what made this movie like the breakout success it was. Like, I like Top Gun, but like I
Hmm.
can still see like there's faults in the original Top Gun for sure.
Yeah.
I still like it for what it is, but like I don't know if I could ever feel that way about Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, Crocodile Dundee is in some way it's like memorable for Paul Hogan and like some of the, lines. Like everybody knows that like that's not a knife, this is a knife. He pulls, the big hunting
Yeah,
knife out. It's like you remember stuff like that from it, but like you said there's no like real conflict or substance to the movie. It's very much probably of this list like the most like cotton candy like movie, and it's funny that it came in at number two at the box office. But I don't know, maybe there was just a certain exoticness at the time where people were like, I don't really know a lot about Australia or Australians, and this is kind of interesting and funny to me that fish out of water story, which it can be. A fish out of water story can be very fun. But yeah, it's interesting to me though that it's like number one, Top Gun. That makes sense to me. It's like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
raw patriotism, like awesome, like movie about cocky guys and fighter jets, and battling with the Ruskies, and like okay, this all kind of makes sense to me. But yeah, Crocodile Dundee number two is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, and I guess like and then you see like Platoon on the list, and you're like a time when like maybe being like an Oscar movie meant like really big box office. Yeah, like because
Mm-hmm.
so like I
Yeah.
don't know, but Crocodile Dundee really just sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, it does absolutely. Like Platoon kind of makes sense. Like it's a stacked cast, which I'd completely forgotten about until I watched recently. It's a really compelling story written by Oliver Stone. It's at a time when people were looking back on Vietnam and really grappling with a lot of the trauma as a nation, and all the things that we did that were horrible throughout the war, and it kind of makes sense why that would be part of the cultural like forefront. But yeah, I mean, with some of the other ones in the list, I've seen Karate Kid 2, but not in a very long time, so I have like nothing to say about it. But I think you wanted to touch on Star Trek 4, which the Voyage Home, as we said, the whale one, which I find to be a very enjoyable Star Trek movie, especially when thinking about the kind of like three in the middle of the original Trek franchise. You know, two, Wrath of Khan, I think that's probably for me the best Star Trek movie of all time. Then, you know, three, Search for Spock. But I feel like Voyage Home is just so much fun. What about you?
Yeah, it is fun, and it's funny that we would talk about Star Trek 4 next because it's another fish out of water movie for sure.
Yep.
A lot of the humor and good feeling that comes from this movie comes from watching the Star Trek crew like have to be in America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the 1980s, San Francisco. Let's watch them roam around and try and figure out how to deal with the 20th.
Yeah, or like figure out that they need money and like how would they handle that?
Right. And hear Walter Koenig say nuclear vessels and just be able to laugh about that.
Yeah, so I guess like with Voyage Home, what? So they determined that the only way to save their planet or something like that is to go back in the past, right? To find out.
Yeah, they
like
have to
this,
get these like whales that can communicate with the alien creatures or something like that.
right when whales existed,
Right. I don't even remember how they end up back in time. They probably use like a wormhole or some
light
crap like
speed,
that.
yeah. And they like Kirk falls in love with like the local marine biologist who is working with the
Mm-hmm.
whales.
That's right. Like you do when
Yeah,
you're
and
Kirk, right?
yeah, he's like just some creepy guy who says he's from the future, but like and it says he wants to steal your whales.
And he does. He does steal the whales, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think like they that like what is it? They have like Sulu like trying to steal the nuclear plutonium or something like that, or is it like
Right. They need some type of the nuclear stuff to like power their ship. I feel like I don't remember a whole lot of the
yeah?
like
Because that's the
minor
only thing that's
details
come
of the
close.
plot. Yeah, but I just remember it being a very fun romp kind of movie.
Yeah,
And
I mean it's definitely different than like the self seriousness that came before it. Like if you are watching like Star Trek 1 and 2, those are like very serious movies.
right.
So 4 is kind of like, oh, you know, we can make a movie that doesn't have to be like, I don't know, such heavy topics. I mean, it's still the end of the universe. I mean, at the end of the day, the stakes are still high, but
Yeah, and it's directed by Leonard Nimoy. I think a lot of I think my favorite Star Trek movies of the original, in particular, the original cast, are Leonard Nimoy ones. Like Shatner directed, I think it was Star Trek 5. Whoa, boy, is that one bad. But part of the fun of watching these too is just seeing the cast together. They're just clearly having so much fun hanging out and playing these characters. They're so lived in at this point. You know, they did the original series, they did that cartoon version, they did a couple of the movies, they had a few movies under their belt, and you can tell they're just having a really good time together. And if they didn't get along off screen, it's not clear to me in the movie. Like they all seem to be having fun together, and that's I think a reason to tune into these, and this one in particular.
yeah.
I guess while we're on the topic of sequels, maybe we talk about Aliens, since that's a sequel, and we're talking about very different tone with that as well between Alien, which is like a sci-fi horror, and Aliens, which is more like sci-fi action, I would say, under James Cameron's direction.
Right, and like for a long time, I think I had only seen Alien, and I was kind of like prejudiced against Aliens because I was like, how could a film that goes like in a different direction than this actually be good?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the fact that it goes so far in another direction is what makes it good. Because it doesn't like have to compare being like, oh, we need to be like a really grim horror movie with like a monster of the week type thing ravaging the crew. I mean, you still have
Mm-hmm.
aliens, obviously plural, but
Right.
I feel like that one has a lot more action going on for it. And you know, outside of Sigourney Weaver, you have a lot of other like cast members that are memorable. It's not just her.
Right. And people who James Cameron worked with many times, like Michael Biehn and Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen, like a really great cast. And I love the military angle to it. You have these like, rough and tumble soldiers who, aren't afraid of anything, and they're dropped into the situation that turns out to be quite terrifying to them, and they are really not prepared for it. I mean, you've obviously got that iconic rant by Bill Paxton's character, like, game over, man. But yeah, it's also a really interesting study in like machismo and like the macho attitude that soldiers have and how that quickly falls apart when facing chaos and supernatural forces. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a great movie.
I think it's like one of those rare sequels that like you could put on a list that say like people would prefer them to the original.
Mm-hmm.
I know like even like some people prefer Godfather 2 to the original, and it's just like, yeah, I think this is like that kind of same realm. Like I think you can be a huge fan of Aliens and like just like Alien, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I also think like Aliens also holds up as like one of James Cameron's best movies, and that's saying a
Yeah,
lot considering his filmography.
I know. Yeah, so many great films. I mean, the guy knows how to do sci-fi. He knows how to do big action. Like one of my favorite directors, and this movie is in his greatest. I agree. I mean, for me personally, I love Terminator and Terminator 2 more because that's just my style. But Aliens is also right up there. Okay, let's see. So,
Were there ones that you specifically want to talk about? Like Evan is not really sharing with you that like I kind of highlighted the ones that I was very familiar with and
mm,
could to talk with about at length, but like certainly if there's one about 86 that like we haven't touched upon that like you were like, "Oh, yeah, I really love this movie," then let's talk about it.
yeah, sure. So, I'm Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield is on this list. That's one of my favorite 80s movies. I've seen it many, many times. It's one of those, like growing up, if your family has movies that you like all
Yeah.
enjoy and watch a million times, Back to School is definitely on the list. Yeah. So, Rodney Dangerfield plays this like business tycoon who owns a store for, he calls it a tall and fat store. So, plus sizes for men, and his son is like struggling in college and says like, oh, I don't know, I'm gonna drop out. And he's like, no, don't do that, I'll come do it with you. I'll just like drop what I'm doing at work and I'm gonna go to school and I'm gonna come hang out with you. But of course he's like, a goofball. Like he was not good in school. So like he's always trying to take like shortcuts, like paying other people to do his homework. And there's a romance with, he brings his buddy Burt Young with him, who's like his butler best friend. He's there hanging out, and he like moves in with his son, who's played by Keith Gordon. You probably remember him from Christine. Robert Downey Jr. plays his roommate and buddy, and he's like total oddball weirdo. And let's see, there's a whole like there's other people in it, like Adrienne Barbeau plays his like wife in the beginning of the movie. Sally Kellerman plays a professor who he falls for, and Paxton Whitehead plays the like stuffy British economics professor who's constantly at odds with him. And then there's this whole piece about diving. Like his son is on the diving team, and he was like a really famous diver back in the day, and so he
Yeah,
joins the
I think I've seen
diving
that.
team. Yeah, the diving coach is of course the great Emmett Walsh, and yeah, there's a really silly sequence where he does a dive called the Triple Lindy, which clearly is a stunt double doing it, and it's silly. It's just very funny movie, and it feels very. It's like you got this kind of nouveau riche guy who's like very like blue collar kind of guy bucking the system, and the old stuffy academics is just a great scene where the economics professor is like, here's how we would do a fictional product, we'd have to do all this stuff, and he's like, wait a minute, you left out a bunch of stuff, and just starts naming like bribes and kickbacks you'd have to pay to people and all this stuff, and everyone is like flabbergasted. He's like, what, this is how it really works. So yeah, it's a fun movie. It's got some really good elements, and a lot of like, he's like, Ned Beatty is in this. Sam Kinison plays an unhinged professor. William Zabka, who from Karate Kid and Cobra Kai, he plays the kind of like douchey guy who is always like picking on Keith Gordon's character. And yeah, I mean, there's a particularly memorable scene too where he gets in trouble for plagiarizing work, and he's supposed to have written a paper on Kurt Vonnegut. And the teacher says to him, "Whoever wrote this paper knows nothing about Kurt Vonnegut." And Kurt Vonnegut was the one who wrote the paper, so that's what's funny. So yeah, that's Back to School.
No, it sounds like a movie that'd be like a fun like double feature with Ferris Bueller's Day Off, because like
Mm-hmm.
that one's very like school centric too, where or at least I have memories of being in school, because like I think like whenever like my science teacher was out, they'd bring the television with the VHS like
Mm-hmm.
all in one standee,
Yep, I
and
remember those.
they'd put the Ferris Bueller's Day Off on, and like that was like great waste of time movie for school.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Great tour of Chicago too. But and it's funny too because Edie McClurg, who's in both movies, she plays the principal secretary in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I think she actually plays Rodney Dangerfield's secretary in Back to School.
She has a type that she plays.
Yeah. Yeah, she was one of those great character actors in the 80s that popped up in things. She's a very memorable scene in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where Steve Martin unloads a number of F-bombs on her.
Mm-hmm.
She was always fun whenever she popped up in 80s movies. But yeah, Ferris Bueller. I mean, talk about a movie that was on TV
Yeah, nonstop.
so much, and not just on your TV in your science classroom when the teacher was out. But yeah, I've seen this a million times. I'm sure you probably have too.
Yeah, I've seen it probably at least 6 times.
I've probably seen more.
And it's great that like so the best friend in the movie is Cameron, and that actor ended up being like on Succession, and when I saw him there I was like, this is hilarious.
Yeah, yeah, Alan Ruck. Yeah, I remember him from. He was also on that show Spin City, I think, with Michael J. Fox. But yeah, I mean, what can you say about Ferris Bueller's Day Off? It's just like a really silly, fun John Hughes movie about like this slacker kid who never goes to school and then particularly wants to blow off school on like a really nice spring day. So he plays hooky and drags his friend and girlfriend along for hijinks throughout Chicago. I
Yeah,
mean, I
I
feel
think
like
like
when
so,
I went to Chicago too, I wanted to like go to some of the places, from the movie.
I was gonna say some of the films outside of the top 10 maybe are things that I'm a little bit more familiar with. I know,
Mm-hmm.
like I've seen Labyrinth now probably like 10 times and know the soundtrack by heart. And
Mm-hmm.
um,
Love it. So
you
good.
know, if you thought like Jennifer Connelly has always been a beautiful woman from then to now. It's a terrific movie, and like David Bowie was amazing in that, and like he gives it his
Mm-hmm.
all with all the puppets,
Yeah. Yeah, he's
like
terrific.
and like like I guess like if you put like Michael Caine next to that, and it's like you have to find a particular actor who is comfortable acting against puppets, right? And who will take it
Mm-hmm.
seriously. I mean, I'm trying to think of even more people who did it, like Tim Curry in Muppet Treasure Island, or what the
Michael Caine and
yeah,
Muppet
Muppet's
Christmas.
Christmas
Yeah,
Carol, and certainly the late comedic actor from The Great Muppet Caper, but
Charles Grodin. Yeah.
Charles Grodin. Like they had like at least when Jim Henson was alive, I'm sure he had input onto like which actors were playing off of the characters with the Muppets, and a lot of these people they found were great. That reminds me a little off kilter. Evan, it's like when they wanted to do the Muppet Show reboot recently, and they hired
Mm-hmm.
Sabrina Carpenter. It's like if they were gonna try to make it work, it seems like she was game for it, and like she was
Mm-hmm.
really into it. Um, yeah, I think it's about finding the right people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you gotta have the right kind of person. You gotta have your Jason Segels of the world, your Seth Rogans of the world to work with the Muppets, right?
Yeah, I think we talked about Highlander recently because I mentioned that Henry Cavill was injured while filming the new one
Mm-hmm.
during our stunt episode,
Yep.
and I love how corny this movie is.
Oh my God, yeah, it's so corny but so fun at the same time, despite its corniness.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, it's like this rah rah movie, and like I feel like really like fun and empowered when I watch it, but then like you get on the undertone scene. There's like where the villain like doesn't he like rape like the hero's girl because he thought it was Sean Connery's girl, and like he raped and killed her, and then he's like
I guess so. It's been a minute since I've seen Highlander, but that sounds right to me.
Yeah, the was it the Krogan or what's his name?
Yeah, I remember Clancy Brown was in it.
Yeah, yeah, that's him. He's
Yeah.
the big villain. He's like there's a scene later where like not unlike John Wick, they consider the churches to be like safe places.
Mm-hmm.
And so they meet Clancy Brown meets the guy who plays Connor McLeod in a church,
Christopher
and
Lambert.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's like, oh, it's better to fade out, or it's better to burn out than to fade away. And he has like his like tongue is unhinged and like almost like Gene Simmons kiss way.
Hmm. Yeah, Highlander's a
But
pretty silly movie.
it's like it's really like heightened by the Queen score, right? Like even though, like people who like
Right.
Flash Gordon, they like it because like Queen was involved. And I just wonder like when they make this new Highlander and it doesn't have Queen music. I don't know. Like maybe they'll license Queen music, or maybe they're in contact with Brian May and Adam Lambert, and they'll make like a new Queen song for this.
That'd be great. Yeah. There was a documentary I saw ages ago. It was about Flash Gordon, and Brian May was explaining how he came up with they came up with like the tune to the Flash Gordon theme. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, agreed. A lot of what the music does a lot of heavy lifting in Highlander.
And talking about music, one of those like cult films I found within like the last 5 years, Evan, was this film called Rad, and they're actually bringing it back to theaters for its 40th anniversary, or they have already because like it has this big following,
Hmm.
and it's like a BMX movie,
Yeah.
but the way it's about being a BMX movie is what makes it kind of fun. It's like they like hired like really professional BMX like racers. I think like Lori Loughlin from Full House and like who cheated with college scandals was is like the female
Is
lead
in
of
it.
this movie.
Oh yeah.
And there's literally a scene where they bring their like bikes to a school dance and like they're all like dancing on their bikes. And
That's amazing.
I think like a I think like a Sparks song is playing, and it's just it is just like fascinating that something like this would exist. So
Hmm.
if you've never seen it, it's definitely worth like giving it a shot because it's just like it's one of those movies that are like I can't believe that this happened, but it did.
Yeah, it's on my list to check out. I've been meaning to see it because I know it has such a strong cult following of people. All right. Any
Yeah,
other movies you want to talk about?
yeah. There was some other stuff on here. I found some like animation films that came out that year. I remember watching An American Tail, but like I don't actually remember the American Tail. I just remember it being like a pretty big movie, and
Yeah, the Don Bluth animated
yeah.
film about a little immigrant mouse, Jewish immigrant mouse, Fievel Mouskowitz, coming to the U.S.
When we talked about Hayao Miyazaki, we talked about my love of Castle in the Sky. That was its premiere year.
Hmm.
And a movie that is near and dear to me in my childhood is Transformers the movie, which is the most cynical cash grab of a movie ever, but like also weirdly works.
Yeah, it
Because
does weirdly work.
are you familiar with this?
Yeah, I've seen Transformers the movie. It's good.
Yeah. It's like the so Hasbro kind of devised it for like the first 20-25 minutes. They'd kill all the old Transformers and bring new Transformers in so they'd sell new
Hmm.
toys. And
Yeah.
that includes killing Optimus Prime,
Yep.
who was like the big Transformer. And like they just didn't realize the blowback and like emotional toll it would have on like children watching this movie. And it's still like Hasbro still revisits this moment now, 40 years later, of like, oh, remember that time we traumatized you? Relive
Yeah.
it now.
It's just mean, Hasbro.
And then they have this like I think it's like Stan Bush did the soundtrack, and it has like songs like Touch, and like it's just like a really great 80s soundtrack. I think Weird Al has
Hmm.
a song on it, Dare to Be Stupid.
Yep. Dare to be Stupid is on there. I remember watching this within the last couple years, and like my mouth was agape when I heard Dare to be Stupid come on. I'm like, am I listening to a Weird Al song in this movie? What is even going on here?
It has like Marlon Brando's last performance ever as like the main villain.
This movie, man, it's truly something.
I do try to get my spouse to watch it every now and then, but she's like, "No, this movie's terrible." I'm like, "Nah, it's not really that bad." I still think it's the best Transformers movie right next to Bumblebee because I thought Bumblebee was actually really good, but yeah, it's definitely a nostalgia piece for sure.
I guess we should probably wrap up this segment and we'll move on in a moment to our station identification. But any kind of closing thoughts on the films we talked about, this 40th anniversary films?
No, I mean, like, I guess I was definitely surprised at the top 10. What was there? I think like it goes to show you, like, even though a movie grosses a lot of money, doesn't necessarily mean it has like long standing. Because like
Right.
I'd argue that some of these movies that weren't like big box office hits probably, you know, people talk about much more today. I mean, like, we didn't talk about Little Shop of Horrors, which I have not actually seen, but like I know like my child's school just put on like a play of Little Shop of Horrors. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that's still like much more relevant than Crocodile Dundee.
Right. Yeah. I think we can agree that most of the other things on here are more relevant. Although I'll admit that Golden Child and Ruthless People, I feel largely lost to time and probably back to
Yes.
school, if not for me, because I know it, but some of the other ones, like Top Gun, of course, Star Trek 4, Aliens, Ferris Bueller, those are the ones that, in Platoon, duh, are the ones that people remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had fun revisiting some of these movies from the 80s as a fan of these movies. This is well documented. So yeah, let's head over to our station identification. You've been listening to the It's the Pictures podcast. You can connect with us on social media. We're It's the Pictures or It's the Pic Pod. I think we're most active right now on Instagram, and as well as we're on Blue Sky and Threads. So check us out in those places. I know that Max, you keep a Letterboxd account for the show, and then you also write this really great newsletter, which is lots of interesting content, movies, games, all kinds of good stuff, anime, as we've talked about. I think you mentioned earlier that you did a review of Project Hail Mary. What are some of the other things, either in the works or that you just released from the newsletter?
Yeah, the Project Hail Mary, maybe some. I plan to be disappointed by the new Mario Brothers movie, so maybe I'll watch that and report back on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I also have the monthly Criterion recommendation, and then I will probably do a spring anime preview there as well. Yeah, a bunch of stuff coming out. February and March were a little slower due to holidays and vacations and what have you, but I'm excited to start writing again and um, you know keep that content real going.
Mm-hmm. Well, where can people find you specifically
Yeah,
on
if you
social
want to
media?
find me on, most often I'm active on Blue Sky. You can find me there. Either search my name Max Colville or at Max Colville. Like Evan said, I also have a letterboxed MH Colville there. You can look at all the things I'm watching. Like the one week I decided to watch Hoppers and Pocahontas back to back, and then maybe watch the trailer for Avatar and see how much all those movies have in common. Um, but yeah, those are probably the best places to find me and what's going on with me. Evan, what about you?
You can also find me every week over at Spoiler Piece Theater, the weekly film review podcast. You can follow me on social media as Real Recon. That's real as in film reel. I'm on Letterboxd, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram. Although admittedly, I'm not very active on any of those places right now, except Letterboxd, where I keep track of movies I'm watching. I guess one other thing I wanted to mention is we have an email if you want to reach out to the podcast. It's thepictures@gmail.com. So definitely shoot us a message. Yeah, I think let's move on to what you've been watching. So Max, you mentioned the movie Hoppers. I think that was on your list to mention. What tell me about Hoppers?
Yeah, Hoppers. When we were at Disney, it was obviously being advertised because it's the new Disney Pixar movie. It's
Mm-hmm.
for them. It's now a rarity to have an original idea that's not a sequel because they're pretty much hedging their bets with a lot of sequels, whether or not it was Inside Out 2 or this
Mm-hmm.
year's Toy Story 5. Hoppers is the rare title that is kind of like, oh, here's an original idea from Pixar. We still do these, and we can still be pretty good at it because I guess Elio came out last year, and not many people tuned in for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Hoppers is about this young woman, 19 years old, who dedicated her life to kind of protecting animals. When local lake is about to be overrun and like put a highway over it, she kind of wants to do everything in her power to protect the wildlife there. And she
Mm-hmm.
finds out that there's people at her university working on this new thing about how to connect with animals, where you can zap your consciousness into a robot. And
Okay.
so the girl kind of launches her consciousness directly into the avatar of a beaver, as they consider these beavers to be keystone animals, and wherever the beavers are, the other animals will follow.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of is able to talk to the other animals through this robot, and makes a connection with another like a beaver, and devises this plan to kind of like stop the mayor from putting the highway through the lake.
What'd you think? Did you like it?
Yeah, it was cute. I mean, like they purposely leave a line in the movie where like the girl is asking, "Well, this is exactly like Avatar," and like they're like, "No, it's not exactly like Avatar." When it is. It's very much her like being an outsider trying to like merge her way into this group of this time literally animals, and
Mm-hmm.
trying to assimilate into their crew in order to suit her purpose. Not unlike the other movies I was mentioning, like Pocahontas with John Smith going and kind of assimilating into that culture. And at first he thinks he's gonna get in to find gold or treasures or something like that, but he ends up falling for love, and very much like what James Cameron's Avatar ended up doing. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, all three movies are very similar. But Hoppers is still pretty cute. I mean, I like to see them, as in Pixar, doing something a little different. I think like Pixar announced the other day that they are planning sequels for Coco. They're planning Monsters Inc. 3. They're planning, outside of Toy Story 5. It's just like tons of sequels.
Mm-hmm.
And gone are the days of Pixar really developing these like franchises that could stand the test of time. And it's too bad because you go to Disney and they have a whole section and they have a whole ride dedicated to Ratatouille. And you're like, Ratatouille, it's like that wasn't like a humongous success, and I don't imagine they sell a lot of merchandise based on Ratatouille.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like it's still an IP that they're able to use. And if you stop creating original stuff, then what do you have?
Yeah. I love Ratatouille. I just recently rewatched it with my kiddo, and it's like this is such a cute, fun movie. So I'm glad that there's a whole ride dedicated to Ratatouille at Disney. Okay. Did you have any other movies you wanted to plug that you've seen?
No, I think like if you want to see my thoughts on Project Hail Mary, we're running a little late here, so just go check out the newsletter if you want to see my thoughts on that one.
Sounds good. I will be very brief. I saw two movies recently that I enjoyed. One is a movie called She Dances, which is a movie with Steve Zahn, and he co-wrote the movie. It's a little independent film. He plays a father, and his real life daughter plays his daughter in the film, and Ethan Hawke is in it as well. And he has to take his daughter, who he's estranged from, to a like dance competition, and he's with her for like a long weekend of dance, and it's about them reconnecting as father and daughter, and it's a really sweet, moving story, and I really enjoyed it. And Ethan Hawke just kills it in his couple of scenes that he's in. He's like really freaking good. I mean, and I like Steve Zahn, I always have. I think he's excellent, and there's some fun little cameos, like Sonequa Martin Green's in it a little bit. Rosemary DeWitt has kind of a cameo. Ron Livingston even shows up in it very briefly. It's yeah, it's a really good little movie. So She Dances, definitely check that out. I think it's in theaters right now and kind of limited release. And then I just saw a movie that's came out on Amazon called Pretty Lethal, which is about a troupe of ballet dancers who are going to Budapest for a dance competition. Their bus breaks down in the middle of nowhere. They end up trapped inside this club that's run by a former ballet dancer, Uma Thurman, and they get into this fight for their life style scenario, kind of similar to the movie Green Room, if you've seen that, where they end up trapped in there and they have to fight their way out. And they realize, hey, wait a minute, we're ballerinas. We're like really good at like handling pain and stuff, and we can totally like use that to our advantage and like kick the crap out of all these like gangsters that want to come after us. It is a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. So those are 2 movies I've seen and would recommend, and that's on Amazon Prime. You can just watch that on.
Which one? Which what were the names again?
She Dances and Pretty Lethal. All right, well that wraps up our episode for today. We will see you on the next one, and it will be our summer movie preview, right, Max? Or our not preview, our box office game.
I think we were planning to do Meryl Streep first because we are going to do that in honor of The Devil Wears Prada 2.
That's right.
Look back at some of her movies, and then we'll do our summer box office game. So you can forward to those 2 episodes coming out over the course of the next month, and I hope you've enjoyed this one.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.